You're watching Bob Washington on CBS 10 WILM. Here's your host, Don Ansell.
And we're back. We're talking about the recession and signs of recovery and how it affects us right here in southeastern North Carolina. Our guest for our final segment, Dr. Tom Simpson. He is a former member of the Federal Reserve. He's an executive in residence at UNC Wilmington. He's going to be participating in a panel, the Economic Outlook Conference at UNCW. We'll talk more about that before we end the segment. Tom, nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Well, thank you. It's
Always
my pleasure.
Always enjoy chatting with you. Let's talk about the economy in general. There's been talk, we're in recovery, we're approaching recovery. Do you see signs of recovery?
Well, I think we're very close if we're not there already. Yes, I do see signs. And a lot of the signs that are giving a little more favorable tone is that the big negatives aren't as negative as they were before. For example, the drag on the economy from inventory liquidation is
what do you mean by inventory liquidation?
Well, what's happening is businesses now have gotten their inventories under control, or at least they're much closer to
There was a glut of inventory of
Right,
product.
and they were cutting back on their orders, and that meant less production, less employment. And in the housing sector, as you've discussed with your previous guests, things are looking a little better. You know, we went through a period, an extended period of very rapid decline in residential construction, and that seems to be coming to an end.
What about banks? We hear that they're now on stronger footing, but we also hear things like they're back to business as usual with a little change in how they operate. What's your take on that?
Well, the outlook for the banking sector is a lot better today than it was, let's say, a year ago. You may recall at this time a year ago,
it was on the verge of collapse.
It indeed was, and it was a
what
very
we heard.
cloudy picture in terms of our banks. Banks have worked through some of their problems. They've gotten a lot of help from the federal government in terms of capital
Is that what
infusions.
turned it around?
Federal policies, without a doubt, are behind this. These were
So
out-of-the-box type.
It was smart money?
It was smart policies,
Okay.
and very aggressive action on the part of particularly
And
the
you
Federal
supported
Reserve.
that?
Oh, absolutely,
Okay.
yes.
But what do the banks need to do differently to avoid repeating what happened? The banks and I guess the market, Wall Street.
Well, they were not practicing good risk management. I think they became a little infatuated with a lot of new products and wanted to be a part of the action, and were aggressively taking on positions associated with these new products, and they got burned very badly.
Are they
So
under-regulated?
I don't know that I'd say the banks themselves are under-regulated. I think regulation needs to change. It needs to change its focus. It needs to be more comprehensive.
Oversight and regulation.
Right. Oh, absolutely. But I think it needs to be more comprehensive in the sense that it not only focuses on commercial banks, but it focuses on other large financial institutions that are very dependent on the health of commercial banks.
And of course,
And vice versa.
competition in the marketplace has been reduced for the consumer with less options. What part does all of that play in this? I mean,
Well, the banks have certainly pulled back in terms of their willingness to lend. You see it in the local market here, you see it throughout the economy and throughout the globe for that matter, because this is not just a U.S. problem, it's a global problem. But what it's doing is it's improving spreads for banks. So they're able to better withstand their loan losses because they're getting very attractive spreads on their credit products.
do you see any signs of more oversight? That oversight and regulation is being looked at and enhanced?
Oh, it definitely has, without a question. All the regulatory agencies have been much more vigilant in terms of regulating.
You think that'll continue?
Oh, yes, and I think Congress is going to do something, whether they will follow the plan proposed by the administration. But yes, indeed, there will be more regulation.
Let's talk about that $787 billion stimulus package known as the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act. Has that done what it was designed to do? Now, it hasn't played out.
It's having a positive impact. There have been a number of critics, very notable critics, who are saying we're not getting much bang for our buck in terms of this package. But I think it has to be kept in mind that we haven't yet gotten to the point where a quarter of that money has gone into the system. So there's a lot more to come.
It's over a 2-year period, is what I thought.
A little more than
maybe more
a
than
2-year period. The biggest contribution of that will be next year, the next calendar year, 2010.
Some say that it's all cyclical and that we would have gotten here without it, because recessions are cyclical.
Absolutely not.
No.
When you look at the nature of the problems that we were confronting starting in 2007, all related to the bubble in the real estate sector, the fundamentals were very similar to those of the Great Depression. And we could have very well, with bad management of policy, we could very well have gone through something as horrific as our parents and grandparents went through in the 1930s.
Did you, or do you favor what the administration did with the auto industry?
I'm not,
You're
I'm
not
not inclined to agree with what was done there. I think that that industry and the American public would have been better served by letting markets work.
What about unemployment? I just looked, and last night I believe it was like 9.7 is what the latest figure is, but that doesn't really reflect, that only reflects who is on unemployment currently. Folks fall off the unemployment rolls. There's folks that never report their employment picture. They say it's about 17%. How does that affect?
No, I think in terms of these numbers that you're referring to, the 9.7 includes those who may have exhausted their unemployment benefits, yes. The only ones that would not be included would be those people who declare that they're no longer in the labor force. And there are lots of discouraged workers. I mean, my own calculations would suggest that if you took into account this discouraged worker effect, that you'd have to add another probably 0.5% to the 9.7.
I want to remind our viewers and folks that might want to attend about the Economic Outlook Conference. You're going to be participating in that along with our first guest, Dr. Woody Hall. Give us the particulars on that. It's October 6th.
It's October 6th in the morning at the Bernie Center on the campus of UNCW. And as Woody pointed out, this is a good time to come to campus because it's the last day of fall break. There's plenty of parking available, and we're sure that there will be spaces available.
Interesting and stimulating. Thanks for joining us. Next week, you'll want to stay tuned. We're going to talk about epidemic swine flu. We'll have an infectious disease specialist joining us next Sunday on Byline Wilmington. If you want to find us online, go to WILM-TV.com and click on Byline. I'm Don Ansel. We'll see you next week.
You've been watching Byline Wilmington on CBS 10 WILM. Join us every Sunday morning at 11 as we explore the issues that concern you.